Hi everyone, I'm Shelly from There's No Place Like Home at redheadmom8.wordpress.com. There are so many videos out there telling you what you should do in your homeschool or even explaining what homeschooling is. But today I thought that I would just mix things up a bit and I would turn the tables. There are a few misconceptions that I think a lot of people have about homeschooling, and that's really what I wanted to talk to you about today. And so today it's all about this. Homeschooling doesn't have to be I left my title like that on purpose because I want you to think about any number of things that you maybe have perceptions of about homeschooling and fill in the blank. Homeschooling doesn't have to be blank. And today I'm just going to talk to you about 5 that I have heard the most often that I really wanted to just get out in the open, and I wanted to address them a little bit. So the very first one, I'm sure everyone who has been to my channel before is expecting this. So I promise you, if you have been to my channel and if you have heard me talk about this before, I'm going to keep it short, but I want to just say this first for those people who maybe have not been to my channel before. So the first one is this. Homeschooling does not have to be anything like school. I know, shocking, right? But so many people, when they hear that a family is homeschooling, they imagine them sitting around the table doing work out of textbooks or work out of workbooks, maybe copying things off of the chalkboard, raising hands for mom to call on them and, ask them for the answer or to tell them when they can go to the bathroom. And sure, while there might be some families that homeschool like this, you don't have to homeschool that way. Homeschooling can look any way that you want it to. It can look like school if you choose for it to. It could look on the complete opposite end of school, where you pretend that school doesn't even exist and you simply allow your children to pursue their own interests as long as they are awake. And that is actually called unschooling. And there are those families in the middle who just have a little bit of structured time in their day and who do a little bit of interest-led learning, or maybe throw in a lot of life learning, like cooking with their kids, baking, showing them how to do their banking, depending on their age, how to do their taxes. There are so many different things that homeschooling can look like. And I think it's a huge mistake to go into homeschooling, if you're thinking about doing it, thinking that you can only copy the way that schools do things. You don't have to copy anything that the school does at all. When it comes to homeschooling, you have carte blanche. You can make it work for your kids. You can make it work for you. And it doesn't matter what the school system has to say about how you do it. It is up to you as the facilitator. So the second one is homeschooling doesn't have to be 6 hours a day or any long length of time like that. And I know that that's something that really keeps a lot of parents from even considering homeschooling, because they look at how long kids spend in school and they think to themselves that that is how long they're going to have to be standing and teaching their kids at home every single day. So they automatically think, well, I wouldn't have time for that. I have to work. I wouldn't be able to stand around just helping with schoolwork all day. I have other things to do. I couldn't stand being in the house for that long. But the thing is that you don't need to be doing structured lessons with your children for 6 hours a day when you are homeschooling. The way that, again, this falls right back to the one that I just talked about. The way that school does things and the way that homeschooling happens, they don't have to be anything alike. They are 2 completely different things. So sometimes your structured learning at home might take only an hour or 2, depending on your age. If you've got a child who's maybe like in kindergarten or first grade, you could spend 30 minutes doing structured work with your kids. So becoming a homeschooling parent doesn't mean that you are going to be confined to the house for all of these hours every single day with your kids and that you are never going to be able to get anything else done. Homeschooling is flexible. You do it when you want to do it. You choose the hours, you choose the days, you choose what activities are going to get done, you choose how they're going to get done, and very often how you choose to do those activities might be things outside of the house. You might be taking your kids out, learning about life experience with you through field trips. You might be just having your kids help you with, as I mentioned before, cooking or baking, or maybe visiting people. You could be doing arts and crafts with your kids, but don't ever think that you have to have your kids just doing nothing but schoolwork for 6 hours a day, and that it is going to be totally boring, and that your life is going to be over because you decided to homeschool. Because you know what? Our life, I honestly feel, our family life at least, seems like it first began when we started to homeschool. So the next one is that homeschooling doesn't have to be a burden. Is it a responsibility? Yes, of course. But is it a burden? No, it doesn't have to be a burden. And it all depends on the sort of outlook that you have about it. If you are looking at it as being, time consuming, that we just talked about, if you look at it as being a necessary evil, something that you don't particularly want to do, but you're doing anyway, yeah, it might come off as a burden to you. But you know what? Homeschooling has flexibility. Use that flexibility to make your homeschool something that is going to work for both your children and for you. Because just as children have learning styles, parents have teaching styles. We all have things that we love to do and things that we kind of shy away from. Like for me, I am not a crafty mom. I don't shy away from them particularly. My kids are crafty. We have lots of art supplies. They will make crafts on their own, but I'm not really good about showing them how to do things because I'm just not good working with my hands. So you have to just tailor your curriculum, tailor your activities to fit your family, and make it fun for you. Make it fun for your children, and make it something that is always going to be a memory that you're all going to treasure as your kids get older. Another one, homeschooling doesn't have to be expensive. This is another reason that I know a lot of people think that they could never homeschool because it would just be too expensive. And it's true. If you actually type in homeschool curriculum and just pull up a random website, what you're going to mainly see are the textbook style homeschooling curriculums. And yeah, a lot of those are really, really expensive. And so if you are a new homeschooling parent who doesn't know any better about homeschooling, and if you are going into it thinking that it has to look like school, so you have to get these textbook curriculums, you might get overwhelmed and you might think, okay, there's no way that I could pull that off. I have a bunch of kids and there's no way that I could afford, $800 or $1,000 a year for each one of my kids. But you know what? That is only looking on the surface. You need to dig deeper. There are so many ways to homeschool frugally. I, at one point, was homeschooling 10 of my 11 children at one time. I'm down to 8 kids. And you know what? Even with homeschooling 8 kids, I barely spend any money at all throughout the year. How? Well, we heavily use our library. Remember, the library is free, and depending upon what sort of library you have in your area, your library might have classes, they might have story hour, they might even lend out toys or puzzles. Most libraries have DVDs that you could watch, audiobooks. Take advantage of that library in your town. Or if you live in a really small town with a small library, usually you can get a card for a bigger library that is close to you. Take advantage of that too. You can homeschool pretty much everything except for math just by using the library. And I'm not talking about just elementary age. I'm talking all the way up through high school. If you are resourceful enough, you could get it done with the library and, like I mentioned, possibly a math curriculum, which again, you don't need to get a really expensive math curriculum either, which leads me into free things online. There are so many free homeschooling resources online that you could also use. Khan Academy, I know that a lot of people use that for math. That is free. Another free one is called Easy Peasy All-in-One Homeschool. I believe that you can find it at allinonehomeschool.com. I'll check that, but I'll leave a link in the description box for that. There is Ambleside online, and that is also a free curriculum. There are lots of free unit studies online. If you don't know what a unit study is, I will leave a link in the description box describing what a unit study is so that I don't take up too much time in this one. But there are free unit studies all over the internet. And on top of that, there are a lot of really inexpensive things online. Like if you go through Teachers Pay Teachers, sometimes you can find things for like $2 or $3 for your kids. So don't ever jump into this thinking that, okay, I'm going to have to spend thousands of dollars for curriculum every year. And then you start to think that maybe this isn't such a good idea after all. Homeschooling doesn't have to be expensive. If it were expensive, I don't know how I would be doing it, honestly. And so the last one that I'm going to talk to you about today is that homeschooling doesn't have to be up for debate. I know there are so many people that when they mention to their friends, when they mention to their family that they are homeschooling, their friends and family, out of concern, might think that it's something that is debatable, something that they might be able to change your mind on. But here's the deal. You have to be firm. And, you have to be firm but gentle. I have to add that. You have to firmly but gently let your family, who is maybe not being very supportive of you, or your friends, if they are not being very supportive of you, and if they are questioning your intentions when it comes to your children's education, you need to remind them that as the parent, you know your kids best, and it is your responsibility to do what is best for them, and it simply isn't up for argument. I know that it's hard to say that to people that you are close to, but if you don't nip it in the bud right away, it is going to be something that might end up having them in your ear constantly the entire time that you're homeschooling. And after a while, it might drag you down to the point where you do start to feel like you shouldn't be doing this. Nip it in the bud right away. Your choice to homeschool is not up for debate. Anyway, that's all that I have for you today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet and would like to hear more of what I have to say, I would love if you would do that. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave it over on Instagram because YouTube disabled my comments. And if you like my work and would like to check out my Patreon page, I will leave a link in the description box for that as well. And I hope you have a great day.